All right. Hello, my friend. Today I want to talk to you about 10 mistakes that I think I made in my life. And this is sort of a continuation of the first ever podcast episode that I recorded, where I talked about 10 things that I think I did right in my life. So today I'm focusing on the flip side, and I'm really digging a bit deeper into the things that I think I could have done better or differently. And this was honestly a difficult episode to record. And not only because inherently I think talking about things that you might have done wrong is a bit uncomfortable, but mostly because I also found it difficult to find outright mistakes. And I want to elaborate on that for a second, but if you want to jump right to the learnings and the mistakes, I included timestamps. So you can look into the time bar, both on Spotify and YouTube, and jump right to what might interest you. So now let me elaborate on why I found that difficult. So fortunately, and I'm very happy to say this, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at in life right now. The person I am, the friends I have, the relationship to my family, and everything else. And I am here because I've lived the life that I've lived, including the good sides and the bad sides. And so sometimes, like looking back and saying, this was a mistake, I would have done that differently, is difficult because I don't know if I'd be in the same spot that I'm in today, right? And so what I've done to account for this is I've clustered the mistakes into different buckets. So I have outright mistakes, and these are things where if I could turn back time and I could change them, I probably would, right? So I would actually just change them. Then I have a second bucket which I call major life learnings, and these are things that I did wrong, but I learned so much from them that I think it was okay, and I probably wouldn't change it. And then lastly is a bucket which I call like alternative life paths, where I'm now often wondering if I could have done that differently, and I have the strong hypothesis that it might have led to a better and happier life. But I don't know. I will never know. I might have gotten hit by a truck if I had chosen a path, or it might have just not played out the way that I would have expected it to. With that being said, I also wanted to briefly touch upon the rationale for recording this episode, which is A, reflecting on myself, which I always find very valuable. Second, sharing it with you, and especially with the people amongst you that might still have to make some of the decisions that I made and that I think I made wrong, right? And then lastly, if any of this inspires you to also think about your mistakes, I think that's good. And if there's anything you want to share with me, I'm always super curious to not only send, but also receive this input. And yeah, so I would say, let's dive in and talk about 10 things I did wrong or learned in my life. All right, so mistake number one is that at some point in my university journey, I stopped asking myself, am I enjoying what I'm doing right now? And see, when I started university and I came out of high school, I was very much on this path of, I want to prove to myself that I'm good. I want to prove to the world, my parents, and myself that I can achieve good grades, I can do a good job in the degree of business, which is the degree that I chose to do. And this structure and this challenge of achieving that, because I had been pretty bad in high school before that, that gave me a lot of meaning. And I got a lot of joy and purpose from chasing that. Now the thing is, at some point, and I would say that was like somewhere between the 6th and 7th semester, so after like 3 years of studying, I had figured this game out. Like, I was writing good grades, I got scholarships, and nobody was kind of like impressed by it anymore. And neither was I. Like, for me, it was just like daily business. I knew how to grind out these achievements. And so they didn't even feel like real achievements anymore. It was just like normal. It was the baseline. And what that left me with is the core essence of what I had chosen to do, which was study a business degree. And during this time I was in the US, I didn't love the city of Boston where I was studying. I had some good friends, but it was still not overall a life that I was really enjoying. And I didn't even ask myself honestly, do I enjoy my life right now? and I let alone answer the question honestly. And so what I did, subconsciously knowing that I wasn't happy, I started vaping, in the US. I don't know if my mom knows this, but yeah, I started vaping quite a lot. To compensate for it, in my head it was just like, okay, let's get through this, and then afterwards we can think and we can decompress. And I did do that, but I spent a year and a half just like grinding through. And whilst I probably even now wouldn't go back and like quit my degree that far in, I think I could have made some modifications had I accepted the fact that I'm unhappy, written down what I was unhappy about, and then made changes to it. Now that's kind of how I approach things now, or try to approach things now. So I bet there's still stuff right now that I'm unhappy with, but not willing to see it. But there's two quotes or like thoughts that I want to leave you with here and that have helped me. And the first one, and I'm going to paraphrase, is from Steve Jobs, because what he said for himself is that if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? And when the answer was no for too many days in a row, I knew that I needed to change something. And I think that's a great question. And so the way I'm implementing it now is at the end of each day, I have like some metrics that I track for myself. And I just want to make it very clear. These are metrics that I chose to help me inform whether I'm living my life in a way that I want to live it. This is not some attempt to optimize my life based on something that I read online or like some externally defined metrics. It's literally questions I want to ask myself each day because I think it helps me to live my life in the way that makes me happy. And I think my smile tells you that I genuinely feel this way. Because I think it's easy to get tricked into tracking a lot of stuff that you think you should be tracking or you should be doing, and finding the balance to what you want to do and how you want to live your life is really important. Not saying I'm perfect, but I'm trying to move into that direction. And so I have like a couple of things I ask myself. Number one, would I want to relive this day? And if the answer is no for too many days in a row, I know that something is off. Question two is, did I have any suicidal thoughts that day? And by suicidal thoughts, I don't necessarily mean, like the later stages of actively thinking about if and how you could commit suicide. And I know it's a super heavy topic, but I still want to talk about it. For me, what happens sometimes is I just go through my day and there might a thought might pop up that's like, what if I didn't have to bother about all of this anymore? And I would count that as yes, I did have a suicidal thought. And at the moment, it happens very rarely because I'm pretty content. But I've also had periods where I've had that almost every day. And to my friends that are watching this, many of you that I'm really close with, I would approach anyway if that ever were the case. But in general, if that went that far, I would approach someone. So don't worry about it. And especially right now, I'm pretty happy and content. But thank you in case you did worry about it. And the second way to think about it is a thing that Alex Hormozy said, where he talks about life as an infinite game. And what he means by that is that there are games that you can win, like a game that you're actually playing, or maybe also a game in life. I don't know, if my goal is to get a scholarship, then I can win the game of getting a scholarship, because once I got it, I have it. And then the game of getting there is over. But life is only over when you die. So you kind of want to construct a life that you want to keep playing, where every day, or most days at least, you're like, yeah, this is fun to do. And again, if you're moving in a way where that is not the case, or as was the case for me, you can only do this by consuming nicotine, alcohol, or any other substance that, in my opinion, takes you away from reality. I think that should start you questioning, or that should encourage you to question whether there is anything currently going on in your life that's not ideal and that you might want to change. Yeah, so mistake number one, stopping to question myself whether I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing. Now, mistake number two, I didn't put a lot of effort into deciding which city and which university I was going to study at in the US. Now, the point being, I put a lot of effort into deciding where I was going to study in Germany, which was ESB Business School in Reutlingen near Stuttgart. But we then got to choose a partner university to go to, and I had 5 to choose from. And the way I chose was, like, we were all in the room, we drew numbers out of a hat, and then in that order we chose unis. And I was lucky that I had a free choice because I got a low number, and so was quick to choose, whilst there was still spots in all the universities. And the way I decided was university ranking, so I went with the best university, and also a fair amount of my friends went there. And that was kind of it. And the reason I say this was a mistake is I did not ask myself, what do I think of the city of Boston? Can I fly there before I choose the university? Will it fit my lifestyle? Does it fit my personality? Does the university offer the courses I want to have? So because I was, going back to question one, playing this game of business, I just went by prestige and what will get me the best job. But best job just meant like most prestigious, finest consulting job. And for that purpose, it was a great uni. But I'm now often left wondering, for example, we had one year, like I'm often left wondering what would have happened if I had chosen another uni. And particularly we had one which was in Florida. It was a very like sports, outdoorsy focused school with like a lot of extracurriculars in that direction. And the vibe was also very different. It attracted different people. And I will never know because I haven't gone that route. But I would now, when I make a decision of this magnitude, because I lived in Boston for 2 years, I studied at this university for 2 years, I would like de-risk the decision and actually go there. Go to the university, go check out the city, see what it's like to live there, see if you enjoy it, see if you find a neighborhood you like. Because when you're living there for 2 years, the value that these 2 years of your life have is immense. So even if the flight, say, costs you €1,000 and then accommodation staying there for a week costs you another 1,000 or even 2,000, you're paying €3,000 to know whether the 2 years that you're about to spend in a place in university educating yourself is what you actually want to do. And so I think this was definitely a mistake. And for the future, I noted to myself that when I have this big decisions to make, you know, whether it's like moving somewhere or also the bike tour that I'm going to do, I want to spend a lot of time deciding where I go, whom I go with, what I commit to, if I ever switch jobs. And I want to put a lot of effort into researching company culture, what their challenges are, what the potential of the firm is. And I think that oftentimes, I personally, and I think many other people as well, don't spend enough time up front to pre-qualify the decision that they're making. And then you might realize it like 2 weeks later, or a month in, or 2 months in, or as was the case for me, half a year into my time in Boston, where I was like, fuck, pardon my French, I don't really like this, and I'm not happy. Okay, now mistake number 3, staying in the realm of university and school, is that I realized pretty late that both school and university are simply value structures that define what good is for your life. And what I mean by that is that when you go through school and later uni, I think that there's a pretty clear structure, at least it was in my school and my business school, for what is good and what means that you are performing well. So when I was in high school and I was writing bad grades, my parents weren't happy, the teachers didn't necessarily like me, and overall I was just not performing very well in this value structure that this system of a school had given me. And then when I started studying, performing well, everybody gave me a thumbs up, and I was doing good in that system. And similarly in university, grades, scholarships, getting good internships, all of these things will get you positive feedback, a thumbs up, and generally will just allow you to fit into these systems. Now, you could just say, okay, like what's wrong with that? And I don't think that there's necessarily anything inherently wrong with it, especially because being a young adult, you don't know what you want, you don't know what your values are, or you're just discovering it, some earlier, others a bit later. But I didn't realize that it was just a system that was given to me and that was formed by society over time. And I didn't stop and ask myself, do I agree with that? Do I like that? And there's not, in my opinion, there's not enough emphasis put on, are you happy? Do you have any side hustles you enjoy? Do you know which direction your life is headed after you get out of uni? Are you choosing your internships only to optimize for prestige or money, which is partially what I did? Or are you actually using your internships to find a job or a career that you will genuinely enjoy long term? And that's also, to some extent, like de-risked against current developments, like AI. And so, yeah, I didn't see through that early enough, and I wish that I had, because then, leading me to point number 4, I could have started thinking about what my own metrics for success and what my own value structure actually is. Now, I think that this is especially important because once you're out of uni, nobody tells you how to orient your life. And now you could say, okay, but I'm going to choose a job, and the job is going to tell me how I should orient my life, because like there's feedback structures, etc. And to an extent that's true, but how do you choose your job? Which company are you going for? And within that company, is everybody going to have the same opinion, or will there be differing opinions on what's good? And do you even want to follow that? And so for me, it was really my first job that kind of demystified that, because I walked out of uni being like, I was best in class, I had scholarship, I had great internships, and I walked into my job, and 2 or 3 months in, I was like, what, like, I hate this life. Like, I was just utterly unhappy. And I started vaping, I started like compensating for it, because I wasn't willing to make a change in my life yet. But you need to decide how you want to live your life. And you need to start understanding what things are actually important to you and what you need to do to get there. And by default, even when you decipher like the school stuff and the uni stuff, you're still going to be left with the influences from your parents, the society you grew up in, the country you grew up in, etc. And again, there's absolutely nothing wrong if you start with that value structure. I think it's normal, it's necessary. And yet, starting to recognize it and go like, oh, I think that was passed on to me from my mother. This might be from my dad. I think this is something I picked up from like this figure on social media that I've been following for a long time. For me, for example, I picked up from Gary Vee. He said, at some point he said like, oh, he's not that smart, so he just has to work harder. And so what I did, I was like, I self-identified as not that smart because I was also not doing great in school. And so for the past 15 years of my life, I told myself, I'm not that smart. Now I'm like, I achieved all these things, like scholarships, best in class, got into a high prestige consulting firm. Am I not smart? I don't know. And I'm like not here saying now that I'm like smart. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm like, I'm definitely not dumb. And maybe I'm like smart in some ways and not so smart in other ways. But who am I to continuously tell myself I'm not that smart? So yeah, recognizing these things and realizing this is the value structure that I currently have. Which parts of this list do I actually agree with when I sit down by myself and look at it? And then what might I want to exchange some of these values or definitions of success for? And I'm going to give you a very personal example for me. So when it comes to dating, and I know this is one of my favorite topics, so I keep going back of it, but it's simply a big part of my life, and I think it affects everyone. So, and it's a bit less touchy than money, which is another topic I like. But so in dating, I think the pattern that I had developed growing up was just using it to an extent as like external validation, and thus also choosing my intimate partners based on that. So, like, obviously I wanted to like the person, but it was also important to me how they looked, what other people thought, etc., etc. And obviously not, there are many, I just had, well, now I'm babbling on. All right, and I want to move from outright mistakes to alternative life paths that I would have loved to consider if I could go back in time. And the first thing is that in choosing my university degree, I would retrospectively probably choose something that I'm genuinely interested in and enthusiastic about. Surprise, surprise, that would not be business. Why did I choose business? I'm good at it. It seems low risk, and a lot of people in my environment had chosen this degree and done something with it that allowed them to have a family, travel, make good money, and just live a decent life. And I'm definitely in a position now where all of this would be true. And nevertheless, what I didn't realize in making that decision, and again, you might call it naive, maybe it was, but I was just a kid, that in choosing your degree, you're really choosing how you're going to spend the next tens of years of your life, and what the time that you do and what the time that you spend every day is going to be filled with. And so back in the day, I was deciding between business and something sports related, like actively, like be teacher, trainer, whatever, do a degree in that direction. And I didn't dare to do it because I was risk averse. But looking back, I know that when I spend the day focused on sports, and that can be learning movement patterns, looking at research in that direction, or training people, writing training plans for people, I enjoy most of that day. When I create a PowerPoint or I do an Excel or I do a business job, I mostly don't enjoy it. And now on the upside, like I used to love philosophy. Like every ethics class that I had, I cherished it. I loved it. When I'm reading this book now, I love it. And so I didn't ask myself, like, is the career that I'm moving into something where at my daily reality of life, what I will be doing on a daily basis if I choose a job in that field, is something that I'll enjoy. And so I would love to see, I would love if I had an alternative reality where I could change this retrospectively. And that's also why right now I'm taking a lot of time to figure out, like, hey, what's something that I might enjoy for the future? And now what I'm not suggesting is just pick whatever you think looks cool and go with that. Take into consideration your value structure, your other metrics for success, which for me included that I wanted to make a significant amount of income / money / own a business. And I think you should, when you're making a choice, be mature enough to think about, hey, can I really pull this off and achieve what I want to achieve if I choose this degree? So for example, if I had chosen sports, and we look at the field of sports and what people make on average if they do a sports degree, it's most certainly lower than if you choose a business degree. But there are also most definitely outliers that outperform anyway. If you have a social media following, if you can build up your own company, if you have, I don't know, a personal training studio like my good friend Moritz, who has a physiotherapy studio, is also making good money now, I think. Or I know that he's making good money. I don't know or care how much exactly, but he's definitely is well off. And look at that objectively and ask yourself, hey, if I choose this path, which I think I'm gonna enjoy more, what will I have to do to succeed in it? And if you can see a way that you can realistically pull it off, I would encourage you to have the courage to choose something you like and then put in the work and make it happen. Another thought in that regard is if you're between two things where one is less complex, like business, one is more complex, like maybe physics or something else, I'd probably choose the more complex thing just because anybody can pick up business in 1 to 2 years if you do an MBA. If I wanted to get physics now, there'd be no chance that I get it without potentially doing a bachelor's in it again. So, just a trade-off. All right, alternative life path, I think number 2. If I could go back to the beginning of my university career, I would try to build something for myself that makes money. And there's 2 things I want to say to that. The first is when I say something that makes you money, that can be a lot of things. That can be streaming, that can be giving classes in music instrument you're playing, that can be building a small business, small fashion brand, freelancing, whatever. And the reason I'm saying it is, by doing so, you're gonna acquire the skill of building something, or at least you're gonna attempt to acquire the skill of building something. And I personally didn't really do this, and I didn't double down on anything. Every now and then I dabbled into social media. I did some volunteer work, which I think was also great, but I never built something myself in university. Like nothing substantial, nothing that someone was willing to pay for. And if you don't do that, and I honestly don't even care if your degree is business or not, it could be philosophy, it could be anything. If you don't do it, you leave uni without the skill of building something that allows you to generate an income by yourself. And what that subsequently leaves you with as a result is the necessity of being in an employment situation, leaving you at the mercy of the person that gives you your job. And if you like your job and you're lucky enough to continuously find jobs and careers that you enjoy, that's great. If we look at all the people I know and how many of them genuinely enjoy their job, that's not that many. And definitely everybody has parts or like phases in their job that they don't enjoy. And the time when you're in uni is socially hedged, and I would say, because when you tell someone I'm in uni, nobody asks you a question about like, okay, but what were you doing? You're in uni. That's all the justification society needs for you to like exist and do your thing. If like me right now, you're like in a gap and you're not doing anything substantial, people might afterwards ask like, what were you really doing in that period of time? And either you have a story that's just coherent for you and you're very confident in it, but if you're not, then maybe it's not even that great to have a longer gap in your life, and thus also CV. And hence I think that, like the time in uni is a great time when you have a lot of free time, you're socially hedged, you virtually have no downside other than the money that you're investing. But nowadays, like if you do something online, you don't even need to invest a lot of money. And you can just pick up the skill. And I'd really try to find something that you enjoy, like going back to the prior points, and just try to build something around it. Like for me, I loved training people, but I never had the guts to just go all in on social media, build a small following, and then do like either online coaching, in-person coaching, work for a gym, whatever. Like I started doing these things, but I never pulled through. And I could give a few excuses now, but there would have definitely been ways to do it. And so like when I talk to young people now and they have like a small Instagram page and they're posting something to get some traction, I just also always want to like take them and be like, hey dude, you've got something going on here, and if you enjoy this, double down on it. Because if you can find a way to make money with that and you have fun doing it, and it like gives you these opportunities, and maybe you can find a mentor and you can grow this thing, how fucking awesome is that? And so like have the courage to just do it, especially in Germany where we don't have a culture of encouragement around these things. Like just go watch some American YouTubers that are doing stuff, and take some of their positive energy and just put it into your own life, and like do some things. I think that's the point, that retrospectively, if I could go back and like tell myself like, dude, you have like so much energy and knowledge and you're onto something, like just do it. I wish I could travel back in time and tell myself that. That would be so lit. All right, let's now move into the section where I talk about like life learnings. So I think I made a mistake, but the learning that I took away from it leads me to the conclusion that I probably wouldn't go back and change it if I could. And the first aspect is, do not end things that you are not ready to end yet. And this is because once you end something and you walk away from it and you say like, this is over, you lose your right to play, as I wrote it down. And the time when I learned this, or like, yeah, the situation that led me to the realization that I should be more careful in ending things, was when I had my second girlfriend. And it's like very personal, but we ended up having a situation where we talked about a thing and we had very different opinions on it. And I ended up being like, okay, I do not want to live this way. And hence I broke up. And I said like, okay, I don't want to do it this way. And we parted ways pretty quickly. And then that was over. And we never talked again. Like a real conversation. Like we said hi and like superficial stuff, but never really like dissected some things that I would have wanted to dissect anymore. And so it took me probably 9 months to a year to really get over that. And working with therapists, I somehow found the closure that I was looking for in myself. And as you can probably tell, like I still feel that, and it's still there. And I didn't have to end it that quickly. And what I don't want to say is that the decision itself was necessarily wrong. I can't change it anymore anyways. But the timing and the not allowing myself and herself, I don't want to speak for her, so just for myself, like not giving myself time to process it and maybe talk through a few things before you end something in a specific instance. But similarly, you could take the same learning that I had in this relationship and apply it to a job. Like, don't rush decisions, basically. And this is really ingrained in my head just because of the amount of pain I went through back then. And last year I had a similar situation, again, in my dating life. And fortunately, that time I remembered it, you know, because I was like about to leave. And then I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not like, because I like some, you know, like some people will give you, they're like, will give you the joy of having closure and like continuing a good relationship after you part ways, but not everybody does. And I now think that it's everybody's right to decide what's right for them. If they don't want to talk to you anymore after you decided to walk away, you walked away. It's their decision, and that's totally fine. And it's hard. It can be very hard, but I think fundamentally that's the truth. And so, yeah, I think just be aware of it. And I constantly remind myself to be aware of it and don't end things before you're really ready to let them go and close the chapter. Yeah, next life learning, and this might be a bit controversial, but in my opinion, the only thing that matters when it comes to employment, your job, or how you earn your money is, are you making enough money to finance your life? And does the way that you earn the money work for you? And does it maintain your self-worth and your self-image? Anything else, what society thinks, what your parents think, what your best friend thinks, doesn't matter. It genuinely does not. And I think this is so important to say, especially in Germany and like similar cultures where society has so much judgment for people that try something else. If you're 20 and you're streaming and you tell someone in Germany about it, unless they're like in some entrepreneurship bubble, they're going to be like, why don't you get a real job? Or like, isn't this risky? And like, F that. Like, seriously. Yeah, and okay, I'm already starting to rant again here, but I genuinely think if, for example, you're streaming Minecraft, let's say you're 21, you're streaming Minecraft, you're making 2.5K net a month, which is already a solid amount of money, and I work an office job, I make 4 net a month, but I work 1.5 times as much as you. I hate my day-to-day. You love your day-to-day, and you're growing your thing, and I'm just waiting for the next promotion, then I'm losing at life, and you're winning. You're absolutely winning. And I think I would have loved to have this encouragement when I was younger. And so I want to, just echo it out there into the world and also remind myself because I feel like we have this image of like a job and being in employment necessarily being like better and like more secure, but we neglect the upside of being happy and like having your own thing and being able to grow it. And now that I'm here, I'm in Thailand right now, I talk to some people that have some online businesses here, like real online businesses. I talk to them, I trust them, and they're making way more money than I would have ever imagined you can make doing that. And they're happy and they train jiu-jitsu with me and they have free time and a family. I'm like, you don't see these things. And so I just want to encourage you to like do your thing. Because like otherwise you're going to end up in a situation where you pursue the safe path, and then you end up in a prestigious job and you don't like it. And maybe you would have found a different way to make the same money, make a lot more money, and be happy at the same time. I'm not saying everybody can do this, but I just think like at least in the society I grew up in Germany and probably many other countries, there's just no encouragement to look for ways that go out of the norm to make money, and like to build your own thing and to take risks and to try and to fail and to get up again. It's just not encouraged. And so it's very easy to fall into this trap of thinking that if you just go with the flow and like get a good job, that's gonna bring you to life that fulfills you, because it doesn't for many people. If it does for you, that's amazing. I'm really happy for you. I just know a lot of people for whom that is not the case. And I myself would have wished that I would have been more courageous as well. So that's why I wrote it down in this major life learning category. And one thought that I want to add to this is like how you feel about your job or your income, source of income, already tells you a lot. So when I worked as a consultant, and I told people about it, I didn't like it. You know, I like always felt a bit of shame and I felt a bit insecure. And I didn't even want to talk about it. And now when I tell people about my upcoming bike trip, which I know it's not making me money yet, but I also haven't committed to anything yet, like income-wise. I haven't doubled down on social media or something. But when I tell people about what I'm about to do, my eyes glow up and I'm like, this is me. Like like, and then if somebody goes like, oh, like that's weird, I'm like, I don't care, because I love it. I want to do it with every fiber of my body. That's what I want to do. And I think if you have that energy and you're on a path and there's a reasonable likelihood that you can turn it into something that generates an income, go with it. Take the risk. You know, if you've built some evidence for yourself that you can excel at things, like now, I have evidence. I graduated best in class, I had scholarships, internships, a job, did well at all of them. So even if 2 years down the road I fail at something that I try, I can go back. If you're like straight out of high school and you've nothing to show yourself other than like €1,000 on your bank account, maybe build a bit of leverage first and a bit of proof before you jump. But that's going to be dependent on your situation. Just like don't be naive, but also dare to do something, take some risks. That's how I feel about it. Now I want to talk about one more thing, and this is, to me, the most important thing. And I wish I would have recognized this mistake sooner and found the ways to deal with it, which I'm now, pointing to the book again, slowly doing. That's that for the majority of my life, I neither believed in myself nor, by consequence, did I bet on myself. I didn't, and I think this is such a crime. If you don't fundamentally believe in yourself, you can do things, that you can succeed, and that you deserve to be happy and successful. And that's the part that was missing the most for me. Believing that I have the right to show myself, to be happy, and to stand up for what I want in life and to pursue it and then cherish the results as well. I didn't have that, and I think that's such a crime. And I want to talk about why I think that is to an extent, and what I'd do now if I were in the situation again. So overall, I think that this pattern of not believing in myself and by consequence not betting on myself was driven by two things. One, when I was young, I didn't have any proof that I can do things because I hadn't done anything. And I sucked in school for the most part of it. And I also had so low self-worth. Like I fundamentally didn't believe in myself and my right to be happy, I think. And this starts I can never pinpoint it, but it started somewhere between 9th grade and 10th grade, I would say, roughly. I think there's one situation that might have triggered it, which I can't talk about publicly, but from that point onwards, there was always this fundamental insecurity in myself where I was like, who am I to think that I can do this, right? And like, who am I to think that I should know this or dare to try this? You know, it's like fundamental insecurity in myself. And one way in which this showed was that at the time I was making, you know, like YouTube videos. I did a fitness trainer license. And I honestly started getting a little bit of traction, like at least in my circle of friends. And so I was considering like, hey, I really enjoy this. Maybe I can like go down this route, double down on like YouTube and social media, build a real life thing, maybe choose a sports degree and like build into that. And I talked about it with a person really close to me, and they were like, okay, but why should anyone hire you? Because there's like former professionals in every sport that also offer services as a trainer or like as a coach, whatever. And back in the day, I was like, that's right. And like, what if I injure myself at some point or I don't want to do it anymore? And the consequence was that I didn't do it. And I chose a business degree because I thought it was more secure. And probably it's more secure for generating an income, but it's also more secure to generate a life of misery for me. So, yeah, okay, that's maybe a bit extreme, but you get the point. And had I had more self-worth and had I believed and bet on myself, things would have gone quite differently. In that very same situation, I would have probably thought as I would think now if I were in the same situation again. I would be like, okay, have you done the market research? I could build an online audience. I could do all the certifications that I need to be a highly qualified professional trainer. I can go work for a successful trainer and learn from them as to how you can do it. And I could now look out on the internet and see, are there people with a similar background as me or a slightly different background that achieved the thing I want to do? It's like now, if I looked on the internet now, there's people like, and I'm gonna like name the big ones because those are the ones you know, but I don't know, you have a Sam Sulek. In Germany you have like Lukas Müller, you have the genetic one, you have like a bunch of people that are roughly my age or younger, like 22, 23, I'm 26, almost 27 now, that are making their living doing stuff like that. And I just didn't, and I didn't grow up in an environment that encouraged stuff like that and that taught me to dream that big. And I think I now am at a point where I'm like starting to believe in myself, and you know, I'm starting to take these bets. And that's only possible because I was fortunate enough to I built the evidence that I can achieve things, you know, like through performing in the degree, through getting the scholarships, through getting the great internships, but also for being fortunate enough to meet friends and to make friends, like they're great friends now, that achieved way more than I would have ever thought was going to be possible for me. And by them achieving it, they showed me that it's possible. And these very same friends also believe in me. Like when I tell them like, hey, I have this idea of making X amount of money, or like, I have this idea of doing this bike trip and documenting it on social media. They go like, hell yeah, dude. I genuinely think you can do that. And I believe in you. And they mean it. And the fact that they've done something of such a big scale that I don't know many people that have, just makes me like, if they believe in me, who am I not to, you know? And it's a beautiful feeling, both to have these friends in my life, but also to now believe in myself more. And if you don't feel that way about yourself, where you're like, I think I can do stuff, and I believe in myself, and I have a circle of people that believe in me, I can only encourage you to like pick up the book, go see a therapist, dig into why that is, and ideally like change your circle of friends. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean abandon all your old friends. I have a lot of old friends that I cherish, but look out for people that you like first and foremost, but also that have succeeded in the thing that you want to do, and that are positive, that want you to achieve things, that light up with you when you tell them about something that you're passionate about. Because again, there's many people that when you're winning and you're passionate and you're courageous and you're trying something, that will just pull you down and keep you at the bottom with them, because they're not daring to go there. And that's typically not out of like malice. They themselves might want to do something like that, but they might not have done the work and they might not have had the experience or luck to develop the courage to do that and believe in themselves. And so it's often a reflection of their own fear. But there are people out there that believe in you and then push you. And if you find them, it's a joy and it's a privilege. And I'm so glad that I have these people in my life now. And yeah, I think, I've also contributed my fair share. I hope, and for some I know that I'm the same energy for them. I try and lift them up. I try to be there for them. I try and encourage them. Do I always succeed in doing that? No. Sometimes I'm never really jealous, but sometimes their success creates insecurity in me. But I think I'm pretty good at now. I recognize that, and sometimes I just address it and I tell them like, dude, I'm so happy for you. I'm noticing that this touches up on an insecurity of mine and I'm working on it, but I just want you to know that, but I love you and I'm so happy for you. And if there's anything I can do to help you, just like let me know and hit me up. And that's the energy that I want to bring to myself. I want to be my biggest cheerleader, and I want to be the biggest cheerleader for my selected friends for whom I choose to be. And I think not having done that when I was younger, and not having had that energy for myself, also my circle to an extent, it's one of the biggest crimes in my life that I did to myself. And so I'm so happy that I've now figured it out. And if you don't feel this way, again, I can just encourage you to start digging, because if you feel that way and if you have these people in your life, it's such a joy, makes such a big difference. And so, yeah, I wish I had recognized this sooner. But as they say, the best time to start was yesterday, the second best time is now. And, well, it's now. And I'm starting now. So that's G. Again, one last thought that I want to leave you with before I wrap up this episode is that a lot of what I said today requires the willingness to look at yourself and your own life without beautifying it and just being brutally honest with yourself. And feeling the pain that comes with that sometimes and just laying it all out and looking at it as it is. And I think that's what I avoided a lot of times. When I was in Boston, I didn't want to look at why I was unhappy, because that would have required me to admit the mistakes that I had made. But it would have also given me the freedom and the ability to then change something. And so I think, look at the stuff where you messed up. Look at the pain. Feel the pain. Allow yourself to feel it. And to also, let it in for a bit. And maybe have self-pity. Be sad about it. But at least you'll have laid it out, and that allows you to change things. Yeah. And this willingness to look at reality is something that I sometimes lacked across many of these points. And I think I'm now better at it. And I hope that I continue to be better at it. And this wraps it up. I hope you gained some value from this. Let me know if you did, if you want to discuss anything, reach out. If anything surprised you, if you think there's a hole in any of my argumentation, and you want to point that out to me, please also let me know. And if you want to share anything about your own learnings, I'd be glad to listen as well. All right, peace out. And I hope you do well, and I hope you achieve everything you want to achieve. Bye-bye.